In this short video, we're looking at asset groups and mappings. So these are the mappings between our asset groups for fixed assets and our chart of account categories in our accounting software. It's very important to get these settings correct. It will help us detect our new asset purchases recorded in accounting software. Make sure that we use the correct account categories when our monthly depreciation journals are posted. Make sure that we use the correct account categories when assets are disposed and the relevant journal entries are created. And if applicable, at the end of a financial year, journal entries can be created that will move our in-year movements to our accumulated balances. When you initially work through the setup wizard, you're automatically guided through to create new asset groups and to map those to the chart of account categories used in your accounting software. You can set up asset groups and map them to your chart of accounts at any time by going to the asset register and selecting asset groups and mappings. So I can see here I've got a few asset groups: furniture, equipment, motor vehicles, trucks and vans, and they've already been mapped to chart of accounts. I can see that with the colouring here that we have. Now, if I were to add a new asset group for plant and machinery, for example, so I can select add a new asset group and call it plant and machinery. And let's put a 4-year straight line, a depreciation rule against that. So I've added a new asset group. If I scroll down to the bottom, I'll see that that asset group has not been mapped to my chart of accounts at that point. So the next thing I need to do is to make sure plant and machinery is mapped to my chart of account categories, and I can do that by using the option Manage Account Mappings. So for the asset groups that I already had in place, I can see that they've already been mapped to my chart of accounts, apart from plant and machinery. I've got the options of adding new accounts if they don't exist, but if they are already in place, I can remove that text and actually start searching. So if I type in the word plant, I'll be able to find plant and machinery cost, and again, and I can search for depreciation, and I can see I've got plant and machinery depreciation. So that is your step one. I'm looking for accounts that I'm going to be adding my asset purchases to, my additions account, and then I have my depreciation account in the balance sheet and the depreciation account used in the profit and loss. So now I go to step 2. What account categories are used when assets are disposed? Now they can actually be exactly the same as the categories that are used in step 1, and that's what I'm using in this example. So I'm just going to change that to 20. Sometimes you may use separate accounts because you might want to monitor your movements in the year separately on your balance sheet. Now, if that is the case and you are monitoring your additions and your depreciation in year on the balance sheet separately, then you might want to use step 3, what accounts are holding your accumulated values, as opposed to what accounts are monitoring movements in the year. And that would be where you can choose those accounts there and search for them. Now, if you basically use the same account categories in steps 1 and 2, then you're not going to be really moving balances around when you process the year end. So if that is the case, then you can simply tick the box to say, I don't need to move balances at the end of the year, and you can finish and save your account mappings. So now I can see if, as I scroll down, plant and machinery successfully mapped to the chart of account categories. if you have allowed nettTracker to create new chart of account categories for you in your accounting software, you will find them with a suffix of NT in brackets within the name. Now you can amend that name at any time and it will remain mapped back in nettTracker. Of course, if you've made any errors with your account mappings, you can go back into nettTracker and you can edit those mappings easily. Just a quick recap, very important to get your asset groups correctly mapped to your chart of account categories in your accounting software. That way nettTracker can detect new asset purchases recorded in the accounting software and makes it easy then to put those asset purchases onto the fixed asset register. Make sure that we use the correct account categories when the monthly depreciation journal entries are posted, and use the correct journal account categories when your assets are marked as disposed, and again those journal entries created for the disposals. And if applicable, if you use separate accounts that hold your accumulated balances to those that monitor the movements during the year, then you can use those mappings there to make sure that balances are adjusted during the year-end process.